Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The West is the Best. Today, we are visiting with Megan and Alan and really looking at highlighting our national conference. So as an association, we have an amazing opportunity to do some incredible opportunities across the board. And so really highlighting this particular event, I think, is something to give into perspective, because you'll start seeing a lot of traffic through email and other avenues that relate back to early bird registration, additional registrations beyond that, and really seeing where your dollar's going. So that's part of our conversation today, and we're going to jump right in and go through some of the different dynamics. Basic part is it's going to be in Madison, Wisconsin, and it's going to be October 10th through the 13th. So that's something planning ahead for our national conference is going to be topic of today.
Yeah, I think it's the equivalent of county fair for our kids. I think national conference is that exciting for a lot of professionals to go to. I could be wrong.
Well, I know for me, some of the best connections I have made across the country, and just kind of see what other people are doing. It's just so uplifting and just really inspiring to see what other people that are in similar roles as me across the country are doing, and how I can improve, and how we benchmark. It's definitely interesting to see. Our title of this podcast is West is the Best. And we personally feel that way, but it's also really nice to see how things are kind of done differently in different regions of the nation, and even throughout the world for that matter.
And we have to identify that it's a great way to actually travel and see different locations across the nation. It's travel like destinations, previous destinations. Okay, you guys have to help me out with this list, because every once in a while, all the years blend together. So it has been in New Orleans, Columbus, correct?
Ohio, yeah, that was my first one.
Indianapolis,
yes.
Minneapolis. We've been to Orlando.
Portland hosted in 2015.
Yep, Portland, Omaha. And that may be back too far. That was 2011.
Well, then we had Boise. Unfortunately,
of course, the best one yet.
That's right. One day it'll be in person, and
yes,
we're grateful that we were still to make it roll virtually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I agree. It's a great opportunity to travel.
Well, I will say something to be said about traveling, because I remember, so my parents listened to John Denver, and I loved the song Country Roads Take Me Home, and I always wanted to visit West Virginia, and then I finally had the opportunity to visit West Virginia when we went to the Greenbrier. And so, when we had our national conference there, and so it's just really so cool to see all the different things that are offered. Fun fact, Madison, Wisconsin is the sister city to Boise, Idaho.
Oh.
So they're supposed to be similar.
Idea.
Yeah, we're supposed to be similar populations and stuff. But the other thing that's interesting is how to figure out how to travel to these conferences, because going to West Virginia, I had to take a train to get there, and going into Madison, Wisconsin, like they've got so many different options to get there. And so that's another thing, is you kind of get to experience different methods of travel to get to the places we're going.
Yeah, and I think particularly I noticed it more since I've moved to Wyoming, of course, is seeing how other, really, like, you take for granted that where you work and where you live and where you grew up is all the same culture. And you guys have probably seen that too, as you move around, and then you go to other places and you realize, oh, things are not like, everybody drives on the same side of the road. It's just a different vibe. It's a different feel. It's a different speed. And that's been really interesting for me too. Like, I was with Alan, I was really excited to go to the Greenbrier in West Virginia. I thought that was so fun. But to hear everybody's stories about how they got to the Greenbrier, physically arrived at the Greenbrier, was just a hoot. had to take a train, and then I took planes, and then I got a rental car. Like, it was just amazing.
Right. I think what's interesting about these conferences, I attend other conferences too. I attend the American Camp Association because I'm really into outdoor education and camps and things like that. But for me, it is so refreshing to connect with your people. I wouldn't have met y'all or anyone in the association if I hadn't attended these conferences, and really make those connections to realize that other people are dealing with the same things that I'm dealing with. Like, it's so interesting going in and where they'll say, I've had a lot of struggles with my horse program, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I know, they'll or and then I don't, it's like these universal things that it's just really interesting to see how there are common struggles. And also, like, so I'm in an urban area, and like trying to design programming that will reach the most amount of kids that we can. So that's refreshing to be able to have those connections.
It is. I like what you say. You found your people.
I definitely appreciate that, because a different perspective, the wealth of knowledge and networking and going to the sessions. So the comparability between conferences. So we spoke about like JSEP and other avenues and how they compare. Definitely this conference is all based on 4-H youth development. So you're hearing from some administrators, you're hearing from agents or educators, you're hearing from the spectrum of individuals and their perspective of where they see are within that whole aspect of 4-H. And you get to gain perspective where you're like, definitely you can relate to some, or you're like, wow, I would not have thought of that. And how can I bring that back home and really apply it to something locally? And then gaining those additional insights and conversations that you probably would not have. And that's the part where you continuously grow, and as an opportunity to gain those resources that probably in some dynamics, I know there was some things that I came home with that I probably would not have had that opportunity to gain if I did not go to a session or had those conversations. And having those opportunities lead back to even this responsibility as a regional director, is having that exposure and having those conversations do lead to a bigger picture, and knowing that there are struggles that are common and there are perspectives that we see. And the other part is that we're all contributing to that. So you as an individual are very important to the whole entire membership.
So I want to ask both Megan and you, Marcella, for the audience of folks that are brand new to the career of 4-H, or for the folks who may not just feel comfortable traveling and introducing themselves to brand new audiences. They may be, they're not quite extroverted, kind of how we tend to be. Like, what would you suggest for those audiences, for those professionals who are thinking about the value of this conference and why they should go?
Because I think just my personal opinion is, especially in, like, I'll pick on Wyoming, we're a small state and we trade a lot of ideas among our 23 counties. We share a lot of Canva art, we share a lot of programmatic pieces, we share a lot of resources that we develop. And it's taking that share culture that exists already in Wyoming and putting it on a national scale. And people are, our colleagues, you guys, are the most generous and kindest people that you can meet. And if you fall in love with something they've done, they email you the exact everything you need to know. And all you have to do is update it to fit what you're doing or fit your specifications. And so the amount of time that you save yourself, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel, it's priceless. Like, isn't it priceless? Because I think that's kind of what we're all about, right? Is gaining new ideas and also sharing new ideas too. I think that's an important thing that I'll talk about later, I'm sure. But the way that our colleagues will just gift you a program on a platter, essentially, and tell you what you need to do and tell you how to duplicate it, tell you how to evaluate it. I think that stuff is golden for those of us who work, 80 hours a week and still are never ahead. Maybe that's just me. I could be alone on that.
I think that's just the nature of the work. There's always a
I
need.
think so too. There is, but certainly, and I think back to the podcast we did about Dr. Rutledge and all of the philosophy of where you're at in your career. If you're looking for new ideas, or like you had even said, Alan, I'm looking for a way to improve my horse advisors or committee or something along those lines. Like, here's some people that have actually had to do that too, and they're sharing. They've made it to the other side. They can share what they know.
They survived. Right. Yeah. How about you,
Yes.
Marcella?
So I think the other avenue of just conversation and looking at the perspective of the value is what you put in is what you take away. So yes, definitely it can be scary because the total amount of people that attend this conference is widespread. But also when you break it down, we do have specific Western region opportunities that are just coming back to those key parts. And when you start looking at the schedule, there's an opportunity to connect back with your state. So if you have a smaller state, it's another opportunity to gain those shared experiences. So whenever you do come back, I know in New Mexico, whoever attends certain conferences multiplied, coming back is another opportunity to share that professional development within your state. So if there's multiple people that go to one session, you can team up and have that presentation at maybe in service or another opportunity. So you can break it down to really smaller portions instead of thinking of it as a mass opportunity. Yes, it is, but when you start looking at day to day, it is more manageable. And I think it takes away the anxiety of being we are as extension very helpful. And like Megan said, if you're feeling uncomfortable or not sure about something, we're in the people business and coming back to just our roots of answering questions. That's what we do. And that wholehearted, okay, try it, figure it out. We're there to assist you. And kind of the other aspect is it is great to see in perspective. And I think it's been worthwhile attending national meetings from when I started as a new agent to midstream, and then really reflecting back on the growth, because anytime you attend a conference, I think it gives you the breadth of where you're at in your career, because there's something that you can walk away with. Curriculums constantly being updated. Those are another avenues that you can come home with. And then just meeting new people. That's the part where understanding how each state is very unique within their structure is something to think about, because there might be a specialist or a position. How states have their actual extension layout of 4-H can look a little bit different. So that might provide perspective of how it is within your state. And then just the working relationships with your administration, having those conversations saying, hey, well, maybe we need this position because of this. And having that opportunity to reflect on that and grow, or maybe we need to split positions within certain avenues. So I think overall, it's a great way to get things into perspective, and without having the true background on certain parts, whether you're jumping into your career brand new, I think there's a place for you to gain some insight. And if you're a veteran and you're seasoned as an agent, there is that walk away and the mentorships and conversation. And hey, we're fun to hang out with. I think the biggest part of 4-H professionals is that we're always open to new ideas.
I like that a lot.
I do too. Yeah. So do you want to, the schedule is released. It's not, I don't know how firmed up it is, but it's relatively firmed up. Do you want to just walk through a little bit of kind of what happens? This is, we'll talk about this a touch later too, but right now our association is in the process of streamlining a lot of things for our national conference. One of the things that my understanding, I have not been on the board for that conversation, so I'm just a recipient of the news, but it seems as though there was concern that our conference was running almost a week in the old days. In fact, Idaho has the distinction of being the last state planned conference. And so now we're trying to, as a board, trying to get things so that the conference looks programmatically from the schedule perspective, looks more similar every year moving forward. So things to expect. So even though we shortened it, of course, I didn't, I feel obligated to share that there are still some pre-conference workshops and opportunities this year. The Communication and Expressive Arts Task Force is doing a pre-conference session as well. There's also, if you're involved with the, oh gosh, what is it? Not the PYD Academy. No, it is, right? The PYD Academy. They're having kind of a pre-conference get together as well. Are you guys on that?
I am not, unfortunately. I wish I was.
But there's also, Alan, 2022 Priority Day. And Marcella, you were just telling us quite a bit about that. Do you want to?
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I wasn't able to go last year, and it seemed like a new topic to me. And I think it's awesome. I think where you prioritize different topics. I'm excited for that. It's so important. It's such a timely topic, you know, coming out of the past few years and seeing the need for knowing how to work with youth in this capacity and just being aware that they are dealing with a lot of mental struggles, you know, and this was happening even before COVID, you know, and so we're really needing as many tools as possible. It's awesome that we have this as an opportunity to gain more tools in our toolbox.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely huge. And when I explained it to one of our 4-H volunteers here locally about what it is and how it works, to me, in my brain, after going through the QPR training with Marcella, I told this volunteer, it seems as natural to me. You know, we have to be first aid CPR certified. It's as natural to me that we also need to be QPR certified. We need to be proficient enough to know the circumstances and how to respond appropriately. And I told this volunteer, because they were local, to not be surprised that it's probably coming down the turnpike for our volunteers as well. Because we expect a lot of our volunteers, and this one is just as relevant and important.
I think so. And the whole conversation, it is just coming back to, because sometimes we, as educators within 4-H, we hear conversations that we're more privy to than parents and other types of adults within children's lives, that we can step in and are playing a key role within a lot of the dynamics. So these are just conversations and ways that we have those courageous conversations anyway. It's just providing us with the language and steps to follow, so we're not caught off guard and we're well equipped. So that's the other part of QPR, becoming certified, maybe as an instructor, going beyond those second levels for you to be an additional resource. So it's all adding, and it's super awesome that National 4-H is looking at all this. So going back to registration, it is separate from the registration for the actual conference, but know that it all supports professionals, youth development professionals within the avenues of everything. So that might be a little conversation as far as actually completing the registration, just reading through it and knowing how Priority Day is connected to the actual conference. And it's directly supported nominally by National 4-H. So that's something that they're really supporting professionals within those dynamics and those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year, 2021 was the inaugural go at it, and I do hope it's something that continues. You know, myself, I enjoyed it last year. I'm looking forward to it this year as well. It's some really in-depth and practical conversations to have, like you said. Something else that's happening on Monday is it's called Conference Orientation, formerly known as First Timers Orientation. And so, Alan, to your question a while ago about what you would tell a first timer or someone new to Extension, if they should attend, I would think that they should attend this session right here. I think it's a great opportunity. It's the New Professionals Working Group hosts it, and they really try to orient you to what to expect at National Conference. I think it's helpful to kind of get all, our board is a whole big crazy thing of people, so many people on the national board. But they try to kind of walk you through that and all the parts and people on the board, but then also what are the sessions and, the highlights of things that first timers would want to make sure that they seek out and make sure they do. And I think too, I will say this, a new initiative that started last year is that if you attend the first timers orientation, or you are then eligible for a second timers scholarship. And the second timer scholarship is new in 2022. We are paying people out to attend. Congratulations to Josie from Montana. She's our winner from the Western region.
Yay.
So yay, she gets to, she gets a little bit of reimbursement to attend. But she attended the session. They made it very fun and interactive. And but then she submitted her application to get more funding to attend this year. And so that second timer scholarship is a way to help folks in their second year attend conference, because attending anywhere, if you're coming from the West, is expensive. So
right.
A little bit of financial help goes a long way, I think. So that would be my plug for the First Timers Conference. Did you go to that when you went, Alan?
I sure did. Yeah, and it was helpful. In fact, I got a tumbler with the 4-H clover on it that I still use to this day. And that's putting some high expectations for the Wisconsin folks to have a good takeaway.
A good, yeah.
But I have a question about the next event I see on Monday night. It's called Monday Night Live. Does this involve either of you like screaming live from Madison, it's Monday night, or doing some skits and stuff, or what is that?
It's to be determined. It is to be determined. This is also, so the second year of this networking event hosted by the regional directors. So it's on Monday night. It's live. I know I will not speak for them. I know they've got some things up their sleeves. How does that sound? But the intention, I will speak to the intention, is that it is meant to be casual, very laid back opportunity to just come in and meet your regional directors and meet members of the national board as well. It's very low key. There's not too many agendas on there. I know that we're going to play some games because we have prizes, but it's more about just who are these crazy people who are just so silly all the time. And we did it last year for the first time. I thought it was delightful myself. I got to meet a lot of people.
That's awesome. I just wondered if the semantics of Monday Night Live, it's like, do they have like an SNL alumni that's going to show up or something, or like, anyways.
I mean, I don't want to put anybody on the spot unless they're ready to do that. I know we all operate at different speeds of comfort. Some of us are not born performers.
Hearing the conversation for that night is going to be amazing. I think the other part in reflecting what happened last year was just conversation. There was talk of cookies. So there definitely is going to be some types of refreshments in the mix of everything. I think the biggest part is understanding that we travel in at different paces. This is just another opportunity that you have to meet people. Because it is a casual setting, that's the other part of just asking those questions and kind of hearing how the next few days are, because that's the conversation is, even if you're not quite sold on being an extrovert or introducing and meeting new people, this is another smaller crowd that you can interact with. And it's come and go. Like, it's not come and stay for the whole thing. It's you can
Forever,
pop
right?
in. Yeah, you can pop in, see what's going on, play some games, and then you can go back, understanding that whenever we move from the West go into the East, we're waking up with that time difference. So having that built-in slack, I think, within conversation is the other part.
Yeah, and I think it was also born of, as I mentioned earlier, our national board includes so many people, and there are all with different responsibilities. And there are way more regional directors on the actual board than anyone else. And it was really just accessibility. I remember being, attending the conference for the first couple of times and really observing the regional directors and thinking, man, they are just, such celebrities, and they're so much better than me. And gosh, if they look at me, I'm just going to melt. And I am here to tell you, I've been on both sides of it now, and that's absolutely not true. I'm not a celebrity, I promise you, by any means. But I think it's important that folks who really do come to this conference, and they may not know a whole lot of people. If you come to this event on Monday night, by golly, you're going to know your regional directors, and you'll probably know the regional directors from the West, because we're just that aggressive.
Megan, you have your own level of fame in this association.
I don't think so. I don't think so. An unnecessary level of fame.
No, I have
also
to definitely disregard that and totally agree with Alan. Yes, you are a celebrity in its own.
But it is really, truly and sincerely, it is just a very casual evening. Come see us, come scope us out. The board is really helping the regional directors make a really strong emphasis and effort to be more, accessible is the word. It's not my best word. It's the word. To not be, our association runs on folks like us.
Right.
And so if you're thinking that maybe this is something that you want to do in the future, whether it's regional director, whether it's the VP of finance, we need you. We'll take you. It's not an exclusive club, but there's no secret handshake. There's no secret requirements. Otherwise, Marcella and I wouldn't have probably made it, right?
It's a conversation to everything. So I think the biggest part is the more you can be involved and pace yourself. It's several days of a lot of information. So having those opportunities to process, I know sometimes I best process things when I'm out loud talking in conversation about it, because it allows me to connect. So those are conversations that I am still learning the structure of the whole association within itself, understanding, oh yeah, that's that person, that's this person. And later on in conversation, we'll actually add more to that because we have some new board positions. So it's an exciting time, definitely.
It is. So that's a wrap on Monday. Like I said, this is not like a detailed explanation of anything. This is just Megan's thoughts on things. So Tuesday is sessions and working group meetings, which you talk to Alan, you know that this is way important for him. We did a whole podcast about it. We did a whole podcast about the working groups. So if you're not sure what those are, you need to go back to episode 2.
Absolutely. I'm just going to make a quick plug that it's so awesome to be connected to a working group. I think the struggle that you will find is choosing one, because oftentimes they're all at the same time.
Yes.
And so it is optional to attend these. However, you can gain so much from them. So I highly recommend checking them out. I just came off being chair of the Urban Programming Working Group. I've always wanted to be involved with the camping and environmental education group. There's like STEM groups and after school groups and animal groups and all sorts of groups that get together and really do some amazing work. So definitely, I will say no more than that, but it's worth checking out and getting involved.
And there's something to be said for meeting those folks in person as well. when we talk about finding your people and finding your tribe, I think that was that working group, that was a whole new level of excitement for me, is that I met all these people who were passionate about similar things to me. And that was kind of where I found an in our association, as I was really excited to find other people who were truly passionate about the same things I was. For me, I think our jobs require us to be kind of a Jack or Jill of all things and a master of none. And so anytime we get to kind of go a different way and something that we're excited about, just helps us fulfill professionally, I think. So we could also say way more about working groups, right? But we'll cut it off. Wednesday, sessions and posters, as well as what used to be known as States Night Out, is now Groups Night Out, which we'll talk about next. But I personally have to put a plug in for the posters. Those of us who, well, here I will put a plug in for the posters. One, because I love the poster sessions, and I never think that we celebrate those enough. Alan and I, that's where we met in person, was at the poster sessions.
Right. It's good.
Yeah, it's really good information on those, and you can go at your own pace.
Exactly. Well, and it's like one of those opportunities where you have to pick and choose what sessions you go to, but at the poster session, you have the opportunity to hit a lot of different people and talk to a lot of people all at once. So it's a little more condensed, but that makes the strength of it even better, because you can do a deep dive with the people you really are interested. I remember connecting with some people on some outdoor education thing, so it's just really awesome to be able to have that opportunity.
So real quick, backtracking, talking about sessions and poster sessions, just some history behind that. As youth development professionals, we have an opportunity to do proposals. So these are actually voted on by us to say, yes, we want this particular session, this poster, and it's a great way to highlight something that you're doing locally on a national scale. So I believe this year was really high stakes as far as if you got accepted to do a session or do a poster, congratulations, because I believe there was close to 500, if not more, proposals to do sessions. And these are opportunities to come back and say, hey, this is a program that I'm doing back in my community. This is the impacts. These are ways that it can be duplicated or replicated across the nation, conversations, and really talking about topics that we want to see. So these sessions and posters are done by other professionals. So it's a great way for you to be highlighted and give that information. And then the other side is you gain that information also.
And those sessions and those posters are depending on your institution and where you are in your tenure and promotion. Sometimes you're able to get extra funding to attend national conference because you're presenting and you're making your institution look good as well. So it's another opportunity that our conference provides for us to, play to the packet if that is the game that you have to play. But also some people are just really fun presenters and really fun poster makers, and they've got some really good ideas also. So bear that in mind too. And States Night Out, as I mentioned earlier, one of Wyoming's most favoriteest things to do is we love eating, and then we love to go play, because Wyoming, we're small group, very small group of us goes each year to national conference. So it's a lot of fun to just go run around with 10 of your closest friends from back home. This year we're looking at the haunted Madison tours, like ghost tours of Madison is one that we saw that we're excited about. We're also always on the hunt for a good piano bar, because we love dual pianos. It's one of our favorite things. I know other states that have giant delegations, they like rent out rooms and do fancy dinners. And one year when we went to the Greenbrier, we went and saw the Ghost of the Greenbrier at the theater. We still talk about that show
Really?
We do. It was so good. It was so good.
Wow. I feel like I missed out on something.
Wyoming has a strange obsession with the Greenbrier ghost. Her name is Zona. That's all you need to know.
Nice.
It is so good. It was so good. It was so well done.
So circling back around to Megan, what she said as far as states night out, traditionally you would go out with your state, understanding that there are some states that might be one or two individuals that represent their state. I'm assuming that's why it's now groups night, where it's not obligated to go with your own state, but a group of individuals that you can go out and explore with.
Yeah, I would think that would be fair. So if you're if you're a delegation of one, come to find Wyoming, because we'll take anybody. We're pretty open. I would say too, a lot of that kind of thing, certainly check with your state association president, because they may have a better idea of how many people are attending and what the plans are. That's in Wyoming, at least, that's who we rely on to put our, be our social, what's that word? Our social concierge.
That sounds great. Coordinator.
Yeah.
Point person.
Coordinator. Yeah. Yeah. So I would highly recommend, if you get the impression that you're the only one going from your state, you'll make some friends, especially if you're from the West.
Yeah, and I really like that we have those opportunities, because oftentimes when I first started in Idaho and now here in Oregon, those are some of the opportunities where I actually met people from my own state. It was at a national conference where it's like, oh, I don't get to see you very often because you're in a whole other area of the state than I am, and like getting to know even your own colleagues when you're in your state, but then also within your region. So great opportunities there.
And I think if you are of the more introverted kind, it's probably helpful, because now you're going out with people from your state, and you kind of have a work-ish thing that you can start talking about that will lead you into some other conversations. It's kind of a comfort thing, I think.
I think so. And then it also allows you to process the day on, hey, did you go to this session? Did you go to that session? Do you see this poster? Those conversations of reflecting, if there is that awkward non-conversation between, there is built-in structures to have those conversations and meet and continuous network.
So Thursday is the last day of the conference. More posters, more sessions, and the cause near and dear to Alan and Megan's heart, the awards banquet. Wah, wah, wah.
Air horns, air horns.
Yeah.
Award ceremony. Celebrate the best in the nation.
That's right. That's right. And so those are all those awards that everybody submitted way back in the winter, like February. We finally get to find out who the national winners are. We get very gussied up. The gussy up is probably my favoriteest part of the whole award ceremony. Unless Alan and I are the hosts, then that's my favorite part. But the gussy up is probably still number 2 on my list.
I love that. I love that phrase. That's a great phrase, gussy up. It's true though. Everyone does get dressed to the nines. They get all fancy, and it's awesome.
Yeah, we do not, the more glitter, the better. That's what I say. The more sequence, the better to see you.
Hey, if you're crossing the stage, there is not that true bounds of your your opportunity to dress. It is amazing. And that's the part, definitely you get to walk across the stage in front of your colleagues. And in years past, there was certain parts that were actually live televised and streamed on different avenues. So definitely it's a big thing to celebrate.
Yeah, if you're a national award winner, you've absolutely earned the right to wear a whole lot of glitter and sequins.
Me too, Megan.
Okay. You too. Yeah. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I think there's no reason not to. Let us see you. Let us celebrate you. It's about you.
The sequin jacket.
And if you're
Yeah.
an award winner, you get like this own little reception you go to prior to going to. And so it's just an
Yeah.
amazing, they roll out the carpet. It names, so they actually go through and say, okay, write your name phonetically. So it actually goes through and your name is pronounced. And usually most of the time, whoever the person is that announcing everything is a celebrity within their community. So that's even an additional aspect to those conversations.
I think one of my favorite awards that we do as an association are essentially the service awards, where we have opportunities to recognize the people who have dedicated so much of their professional life towards youth development, towards positive youth development. And for those that are new, you're going to want to know about that in your states to make sure that you are applying for those awards. And I think that's something that is unique, that I know for me when I first started, was realizing that you do submit for awards in this association. And I don't know if that's different in other states, but every state that I've been a part of, that's been an expectation. And it's essentially a way to, and I know we've talked about that a little bit in this podcast before, but it's a way to document and showcase that you have done good work. And we want to celebrate that. We want to recognize that hard work that's been put in.
Yeah. And let us recognize you nationally for the work that you've done locally. And that's tremendous. That's tremendous. And it's definitely something to write home about.
Like fancy photos to be able to publish.
Yes. That's the thing, isn't it? When you think about the photos that we take with our 4-H kids and, doing the fun stuff when we're celebrating their successes, if you will. And I don't know, I'm sure I'm in the minority, but I always look like a hot mess express at these things because it's always in the summer. I am hot and sweaty and gross. And here's the state champion livestock judging team. And we've cut their 4-H agent out because she was sweating and was not prepared for photos that night.
You know what? You're in the thick of it. So it's like, what do they expect of us?
Right. But then, so I purposely don't get in on those photos, right? But Marcella's right. They bring in a real photographer. You're in your glitter. You get your hair did. Just do it. Yeah. And those of us who are not receiving awards, we're allowed to just sit there and play fashion police and clap. That's all that's expected of us.
And
sometimes we take photos. Yeah.
That's the part where like your state delegation comes and just is there. And yes. I don't know about other states, but within New Mexico, if you're depending on the award that you're being able to receive, you can have a guest. So those are other avenues that you can have people to come and support you. And that's a great way of just interacting and having those opportunities to get recognized, definitely, which I think as youth development educators, sometimes we recognize everybody else, but then when it comes to us, we're like, oh, it's nothing, it's okay, it works. We downplay
it's not a big
what
deal.
We're doing. Yeah,
exactly. No, the other thing that happens on Thursday is the coolest thing, known as the regional brunch or breakfast, depending on where we're at. But usually it's a brunch. Anybody want to talk about that?
Sure, unless Marcella would like to.
Go ahead and start and I'll jump in after you.
Okay. I really enjoy the regional brunch / breakfast. It's an opportunity that you are interacting with your region. You get to connect with people that you may have connected at other events. If you're brand new, it'll be an opportunity to meet all the people that surround you in different states. And I know that there's people who have done actually established programs, cross-state programs at things like this. I know a lot of different states that do interstate exchanges with kids and are able to connect at other national events that happen. And it's just really a great opportunity to also recognize the work that is being done in our region and to be able to learn about it and see how we can improve.
So I think the West has a very unique perspective on the regional brunch compared to some of the other regions. And related to that is it's also, we recognize our recipients of our Western Region Awards, part of that event. And then we also have a fundraiser associated to that. So depending on the year, some state, well, all states within the region are asked to bring a basket or something that we can do as far as a silent auction or a live auction. And those are other ways that we gain revenue to help continuously support our region. And so within that, when you go to the hospitality avenues, when we talked about the Monday Night Live, those are other ways that we use those funds that go directly back into the membership. So those are things that we have built in to ensure that whenever we are reflecting back to our regions or as an association, there is continuous buy-in to where we're continuously supporting one another and recognizing. So that's the part, in addition to walking across the national stage, you are recognized as a region within your branch. And it looks different every year depending on the location, which is great because you get to see your regional directors in addition to the other aspects of everything. And correct me on this title if it's the members recognition. So that chair is a big key contributor to the regional brunch because they help organize and recognize everything. And it's a great morning to just chit chat. And a lot of times I think the biggest part is coming back to saying, okay, yes, we made it through the whole conference and what are our takeaways and what additional networking opportunities we can, because it's kind of like a wave. And then all of a sudden you're there and you're like, okay, it's regional brunch. That means that it's getting ready to conclude everything. Where did time go?
Yeah, and I think there's something really special just getting together as a region. Also, like you had said, celebrating regional awards, but then also just seeing, kind of another version of your home base as well. I wanted to pick on the hospitality account a little bit. This specific topic was a direct request we got while we were at the JSEP ELC conference, and I didn't write down who wanted it, so I'm just going to go for it. So the regional hospitality account is held at our national association level, so it's held nationally, but it's earmarked, it's our money. Some of the things that we've done with it the past 2 years will be stickers that promote the West is Best podcast. So those are getting, if you didn't get one last year, you'll get one. What did I just say? If you didn't get one last year, you'll get one this year for sure. As Marcella mentioned too, if you come to the regional directors Monday Night Live, or if you come out and seek us out, we'll give you this year we're doing a pin challenge. So regional accounts are splitting the cost of those. Some other avenues that we've spent this year is if you attended the JSEP ELC conference in February, and you were not the one representative from your state to be totally reimbursed by NAE4-HYDP. So if you attended and you were not on that scholarship, we covered your supper when we went to Cafe Trio at the JSEP ELC conference. So that was another way we use our hospitality funds. The way they were originally designed and set up to use for the West is that when the conference is held in the West, so our next time is 2024, it'll be come back to the Western region again. And generally we offer like a scholarship of some sort, one per state for everyone to attend. We also have been very, 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 very blessed and very, very healthy in that account. So we've been giving away some reimbursable scholarships for registration the past couple of years. When Idaho was geared up to host a couple of years ago, we had committed some money to Idaho to help support the hosting duties. Of course, it went virtual, so Idaho gave it back and asked us to just spend it on the membership. So that's what we've been doing. So we are in a new phase where we're trying to spend it back on the membership a little bit more, even if it's something small like stickers or something big like a registration to a conference. But that is all generated, all the income is generated by us. We do ask that this year's conference, please bring a basket or an item for either a silent auction or a live auction. And those are really fun too. I can tell you we've had commitments from Hawaii. So if you need to go visit Hawaii, you've got a place to stay. I can say new in 2022. If you need to go visit Alaska, you've got a place to stay in Alaska too. So we've got some cool things like that. All you have to do outside of the auction is just get your plane ticket to where you're trying to go to, and you're good. Of course, there's also always other things that are fun to bid on and look at as well. So the funds that in that regional hospitality account are really in the West. The philosophy is to use them for folks in the West, for sure. The other cool thing that has happened with our national conference the past 2 years is it's called Small Bites, and they happen every morning with a little bit of breakfast, a little bit of coffee, a little bit of conversation, and each morning highlights a different topic. So one morning will be the specialty award winners, one morning will be the communicator award winners, and the third morning will be the working groups. So it's a neat opportunity to informally learn more about our national award winners and our working groups as you share breakfast and coffee. I think it's a sweet addition and a neat, unique way to highlight the work that all of our colleagues are doing, and of course our working groups.
Definitely. So my understanding of the whole concept is serve yourself some breakfast and kind of just peruse through tables and have conversation, and here's a little bit of here's a little bit of this, and kind of helps you set your agenda for the day if by chance you didn't select certain things. And the other part, it just gives you conversation.
Yeah. Last year they happened in one of our the grand ballroom annex, if you will. So it was helpful. So the folks had posters set up, kind of the presentations or the materials set up, but it really was intended to be informal, kind of like the poster session. Swing in, learn about what's going on here, and then drink your coffee or eat your croissant and be about. So I'm excited to see how it turns out. It happens before the general sessions. So it's a small bite, but it's an early small bite. I want to say they kick it off at like 7:15 each morning. So you have to rise and shine for that one as well. But I think it's a nice way to learn more about the cool work that our colleagues are doing.
Looking forward to being there. I haven't yet to experience one, but I always love being able to, it's always good to break bread with others and be able to have those conversations. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, just that casual connection that we all come away from national conference with, and here's one more informal opportunity to do that and gain some new ideas too. So what would you guys say is the best part of attending national conference? What are your favorite things?
I would say that the opportunity of downtime between sessions where I've connected with people and just being able to talk and make a deep connection has been my favorite part, because that's where I was able to run with the Soccer for Success program while I was in Boise, was the connections I made there. And then also connections I made with other people in my region. I remember having lunch with Dave Francis of Utah 4-H, Craig Dart of Utah 4-H, who I knew before my very first job in 4-H, having lunch with Mike Knutz and Mario Magana Alvarez from Oregon 4-H, and just making those connections with other professionals and like learning about them and what they focus on and how I can focus on what I'm doing in my career in my area. And so those are things that I've been able to take away and run with. That sounds like very not like super impactful or whatever, but it was to me. You know, I love all of the presentations, the workshops, the posters, but it's, for me, it was like the stuff in between that really has stuck with me and building those relationships. And I'm grateful for, because it just brings a lot of individuals and knowledge all together.
I think for me, exactly, like it contextualizes the relevancy of your job. It provides an opportunity to see it in various aspects and settings. So when you start looking at even a local situation that you're looking at to approach within those various avenues, you understand that there is similarities. And then the other part, it's an opportunity to grow and network, where those conversations can be the start of something long-term. And then the other part is when you go in search of potential frustrations currently locally, you go and you understand that there is a solution. There is another dynamic of those conversations that can be brought back, where it's no longer just in a silo, that it's continuously going out and coming to different avenues. And that's where the conversation of even sharing the perspectives of things that you do locally provide value, because sometimes we don't understand that what we're doing is very unique and can be beneficial if we share it. And so having those conversations, even in attendance, those side conversations, going into sessions and sharing that knowledge does provide relevancy across the board. So that's the part where, for me, contextualizing a lot of my stuff early on as an agent provided me with more substance, and then potential as far as growing, and then where it transitions and topics continuously add and grow. And that's the part where you start seeing, when you attend conference, it might be for different avenues within your career, but it's always relevant.
Yeah, it's the people. I think, yeah, seeing our friends that we haven't been together with since last year, I think is the big thing for me. I'm with you guys. It's the people.
For me is traveling, like being able to see all these places.
Yes.
Probably because I would not have otherwise traveled to the Greenbrier. I was like, yeah, not really, but being able to go to the golf course is the other avenue. If you're there, might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think that's the marriage, isn't it? It's the people, and for many of us, I think the travel counts for a lot too, and the opportunity to go out and do and see and play.
That's right. Well, yeah, it's like, like I said earlier, I would never have been able to connect with y'all if I had not gone to that. And we ventured on this journey together on doing this podcast and talking about how we can make the best better for our association.
Oh, here's a question that I have it just popped into my head. If you had to give one piece of advice to someone attending national conference for the first time or the second time, what would that piece of advice be? Something, it can be something that they should not miss, something they should not skip, something they need to do. What pieces of advice? It can be more than one.
So I'm actually going to repeat something that Marcella said earlier that I really agree with. And so I hope that wasn't what you're going to say, Marcella, but it's going to be whatever you put into this experience at this conference is what you'll get out of it. If you go into the keynote trying to learn something, or if you go into these workshops with the intent to learn something, or you go into Monday Night Live with the intent to connect to at least one person, you will get that. But if you go in with an attitude of like, I really don't want to do this, why am I here? You're not going to get the most out of it. And so I think that's so important to think about, what are your needs personally as a professional, and what are the needs of your county, and run with those and match that to what you are going to do at the conference, and who you're going to talk to, what posters you're going to see, what workshops you'll attend, all of those things.
I would agree with the caveats of be present. So depending if you have the support of going and attending, do the auto reply on your email. Please don't be distracted by home life or responsibilities that you can do. You're paying to go to this conference. So do work your opportunities to your advantage. So trying to mitigate those responsibilities. I know as educators, there is tons of happening all the time within those avenues, but work to be present within those avenues. If you can put those auto responses on your email, or just understand that, okay, I'll get 2 phone calls at the end of the day or a certain time, block it off and limit that just so you can be present. Because I know me personally, if I don't have that, then it's constantly thinking, oh yeah, next week when I get back, I have to do this, or, oh, yes, this is coming up. If you can just know and understand that you need to be present for that moment, I think the other part just falls into place, because you start seeing the value in those conversations. You start seeing value of those opportunities to just go out and see, and then it just becomes like a whole different aspect of everything. So the other part is make sure it's enjoyable. If there's something you don't get to do within your state, is do at least one activity that's just for you, because sometimes we don't do that for ourselves. And if you're there, someone at home is taking care of everything. So just do one thing for yourself.
I absolutely agree with that. That was going to be my statement, is that as much professional development that comes at us by fire hose in the couple of days that we're all together, I think it's very important that you do something that is personally developing for you as well. I know, I'm not going to lie to you. That's, I think Scott called it like create your own tour or session or something, or sightseeing. I don't know. He had a really nice name for it. But in my world, it's like go to the spa, get a massage. Last year when we were in Memphis, it was really important to me that I got to the Civil Rights Museum. And so I took my time and I went skipped some sessions so I could go do that and walk through that and see that, so that I could, that was something personally important to me that I wanted to do. And so I do think that our schedule is tight and there's a lot going on. Depending on your state and your institution, that determines the expectation that you go to every session and every workshop and every poster. And if that's what they expect of you, then they must not see that schedule, because it is filled to hills with good things. But sometimes the best thing we can do is take care of ourselves. So if that means going to, the museum, or going for a walk around town, or, the spa, I think that could be argued. I think that's important too. Or
ice cream
do
with
something
sprinkles.
for
Remember
yourself.
the whole ice cream with sprinkles?
Wait, say that again?
Ice cream and sprinkles.
Yeah.
As simple as that, something that just is for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm always down for ice cream.
Yeah, with sprinkles.
It's with sprinkles.
With sprinkles too. The other thing too, I would say for anybody who's new to going or hasn't been in a while, is check in with your state association leadership or your state leaders and see what the expectations are in terms of what you do attend. My mentor told me that it was inappropriate to miss the general sessions that happen every morning. So I now that I'm a member of the board, I think that's important, that I would encourage everyone to attend. Certainly we cover a lot in this podcast, but not all of the business of the association is covered on this podcast. So there's a lot that we are not representing or not speaking to. So I would encourage everyone to not miss the general sessions in the morning. And I'm going to use that as our segue into what happens at those general sessions is we'll be installing some new board positions and some vice presidents, and we'll be sunsetting some of those VP or VP positions too. So I don't know how in-depth we will get. I can't get too in-depth on that, but let's talk first about the 2 positions that are sunsetting. So this fall, it will conclude the Vice President of Professional Development and the Vice President of Marketing and Outreach. Those are gone. We don't have those anymore. But we will be installing 2 new positions. One is the VP of Conferences and Events, and the other is the VP of Professional Development and Education. Oh, you know, the other one that we're sunsetting too is the like programs committee. So
Yes.
don't worry. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say these changes come about for the needs of our association. They're not just like random, hey, let's delete this and add this. It's okay, this is where we're growing and this is where we need more support. And this is why our structure needs to be modified to ensure that it's continuously to support the many benefits that we do.
Great. So it's not, so just because those positions themselves are sunsetting doesn't mean that the work that they did or the work that they oversaw is going away. In fact, a lot of them are being shifted into these 2 new positions. So picking on Alan first, the first one is the programs committees or the working groups, and those are now being moved into the VP of Professional Development and Education. In addition to, so all the working groups are remaining intact. They're just reporting to a new person effective this fall. There's also the VP of Professional Development and Education also supervises or works with research and evaluation, professional development, educational programs committee working groups, and in our regular working groups. So all of the working groups will now kind of be housed in one place. So that's still the new member working group, all of the communication and expressive arts, science, outdoor education, those guys are still operating and existing, just under a new person. The VP of Professional Development is going to work kind of closely with this new position called the VP of Conferences and Events. So now you may recall that the board will now be doing more of the planning and happening of our conferences, as we've talked about a lot already in this episode, is trying to streamline some things so that it's the same from year to year. And so now we have one person that will be responsible for making that happen. Each state will still have a chair, but there will also be a board appointed co-chair as well to help get that giant job accomplished of planning our conferences. So we're going to learn more about those when we go to Madison this fall.
So the conference within itself acts as a pivotal, I guess, division between program years, sort of, because awards have to be done within a certain time period. So the calendar year. And so the actual conference is usually October, November. It kind of, depending on location, maybe shifts a little bit. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So this year, thinking that it's in October, that's the part where definitely those conversations of rewards, and it's kind of a little kooky for me sometimes when you start thinking about the service awards and the other avenues of how, when those programs were actually conducted, the award session, depending in your state, and then when they're being recognized, because it is retrospect of what happened last year to this year to carrying it into the new year. But when you think about 4-H, it's appropriate because it's for New Mexico, we start in October as far as our new program year. So we jump in and appropriate to add all those ideas. So transition of leadership, transition. So our president-elect takes on a role related to this. So Craig will be stepping into some new shoes, and we have different avenues of conversation. So it is an amazing time to see, and you're there witnessing all these transitions also.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we're welcoming some new regional directors across the country as well. I'm really excited too. I liked what you said, Marcella, about these changes reflect where our association is in 2022. I think it's important to realize, like anything, that we don't exist and we don't operate the way that we've always operated and existed just because that's what we're familiar with or we're comfortable with, just like our local programs. And so a lot of the things that I notice in our conference, just picking on our conference, for example, and Alan, you may be able to speak to this too, is some of the historic things that used to happen at the conference, like the pre-conference tours and the where you can go out and take tours around the city that you're visiting. Those we're becoming less well attended, and really creating some hard conversations for each host state. If we continue to offer those tours, I think too, people are, and when I think about it myself, as I think of my colleagues in Wyoming, and they're like ridiculously good at navigating Uber and Lyft, and they know how to get where they want to go. And so the need to go as a large group no longer maybe exists or is of interest to those attending national conference.
I think it's really good for us to really think about that. What, when they talk a lot about this in user design or experience design, is the end user. Who are our attendees to this conference, and what are they wanting, what are they needing? And we do have a lot of tools at our disposal to be able to plan trips, and so that was definitely a conversation we were having. Well, unfortunately, when we had to go virtual, but we were still successful. But those types of experiences we weren't able to necessarily offer. We could do like videos and stuff, which turned out okay. It's just, finding your own adventure where you're staying and getting involved with. Apparently you need to come connect with Wyoming if you want to have a good time. So who to talk to if you want.
I don't know. They just know how to do Uber.
That's right.
I'm here to tell you, they know how to Uber. Yeah, I just think it's refreshing to me, I guess I should say, as a member, as a dues paying member, who's not at all the spokesperson, but I think it's great that our association really does strive to meet the needs of the membership where we're at.
Right.
And recognizing here's what we value, here's what we, don't value quite as much these days anymore, and really trying to plan a conference that everybody can get something out of. Any other closing thoughts, final thoughts on national meeting?
I would like to cite my sources with Boise and Madison being sister cities. That is from the City of Boise Planning Commission, that whenever they are planning things, they want to compare how they're doing with the City of Madison, Wisconsin. So I had to look that up real quick while we were talking to make sure I was correct. And that's an internal thing from a presentation I went a few years back. So it's, again, those university towns, they got to stick together. So
when we go to Madison, will it be almost like we're in Boise?
That's what I think so. Like similar population size, similar transportation, bikeable city. I think Boise may have the airport facilities that are different than Madison, but we shall see. Looking forward to finding out.
Me too.
I think if you have the opportunity to travel to national conference, do it, because the positives out of any of the pros versus the cons, the pros definitely outweigh any of those avenues. Yes, it's taking another opportunity of deviating your resources to a particular avenue, but this is you investing in yourself. And I think as educators, we don't do that as much, and we definitely need those avenues. And if you need to justify it, it's definitely something discipline, curriculum based that can definitely come back to whoever needs to sign off on that check at your local university.
This has been a 2022 production of the NAE4-HYDP Western Region.
The West is the best. Please join us for our next episode.